Why is the world so nervous about Ibrahim Traoré? In Burkina Faso, Captain Ibrahim Traoré is not only battling extremists, he's challenging powerful global interests. From Paris to Washington, many want him removed. Inside his nation, corrupt elites and internal enemies work in the shadows. Across Africa, even some presidents feel threatened by his rise. Why? Because Traoré's crime is simple: putting Burkina Faso first, restoring dignity, rejecting foreign control, and refusing to submit. Yet despite the pressure, Traoré refuses to step aside. He is quietly building a strong, discreet security structure designed to protect his mission for Burkina Faso's future. Today, we expose the system he is creating and why powerful forces are racing to stop him before it's too late. This is the real fight for the soul of Africa, and Ibrahim Traoré stands at the center of it. In only 2 years, no African leader has survived more assassination attempts, over 15. From the moment he took power, Traoré has lived on constant alert. No rest, no break. Coup attempts keep coming. This is beyond politics now. It is a war. A war against a man who has become a symbol, not of dictatorship, but of conviction. Critics say this is simply what comes with military rule. But if that were true, why haven't other Sahelian leaders faced anything close to this level of danger? Chad, Gabon, even Niger and Mali. None of their leaders have been targeted with such intensity. What makes Traoré different? He is more than a soldier, more than a president. He has become the face of a revolution, the unofficial leader of the AES alliance. He has also become the voice of a rising ideological movement. He was the first to declare that the Sahel is not merely changing, it is awakening. His speech at the Russia-Africa Summit electrified Pan-African thinkers across the world. His fire, his vision, his refusal to bend. These qualities made others rally behind him. And now, whether alive or dead, he is one of the most pursued figures on the African continent. April 16, 2025. A day that could have changed Burkina Faso forever. Another plot to eliminate Traoré. Even though the attempt was foiled, the danger didn't disappear, it evolved. The conspirators are still out there, regrouping, planning, preparing for another strike. Intelligence report says they are determined to act as soon as possible. Where did they flee? Not underground, across borders. To Ivory Coast, a country increasingly accused of collaborating with France to undermine Burkina Faso. There, the plotters were welcomed, not as fugitives, but as partners. A new operational hub has reportedly been set up under the protection of Ivorian officials. Their mission: finish what they started. But Traoré is not sitting idle. In response to this rising threat, he has launched a bold counter-strategy. Insiders call it the lockdown doctrine. More than extra security, it's a total restructuring of this inner environment. People, systems, priorities. Nothing is left to chance. Local sources describe it as a policy where vigilance replaces ceremony and loyalty outweighs rank. The first major step: a complete overhaul of the Presidential Guard, the elite unit responsible for his protection. This move is not symbolic. It's survival in a time when betrayal could come from within. And as tension rises in Ouagadougou, one thing is becoming unmistakably clear. Traoré is preparing for the next attack. Think about it. If senior Burkinabe officers were willing to betray him, what guarantees that his own inner security hasn't already been infiltrated? Some conspirators didn't just defect. They paid other soldiers to stir unrest inside the ranks. And some of those soldiers could have been inside the Presidential Guard itself, a risk Traoré cannot afford. So he moved decisively. The entire Presidential Guard has been rebuilt from the ground up. Units were reshuffled, suspicious members quietly removed, and only those who proved unwavering loyalty were brought back. But loyalty alone wasn't enough. Every candidate, new or returning, was subjected to a deep, invasive vetting process. Their academic history, family connections, political leanings, and even foreign contacts were examined in detail, far beyond a routine background check. Every angle was investigated. Only those who passed every layer of scrutiny were allowed to wear the uniform. Today, the Presidential Guard isn't just elite. It is trustworthy, handpicked, fortified, and loyal to the core. But Traore didn't stop there. The betrayal by Barry Abdrahmane exposed another vulnerability: the country's outdated communications network. That old system allowed traitors to secretly pass sensitive military information to hostile actors. That loophole is now closed. Traore has overhauled Burkina Faso's communication structure, adding encrypted technology that can detect and track suspicious transmissions in real time. Any soldier who dares to leak intelligence or collaborate with enemies will now be caught, and this time there will be no second chances. To counter growing threats, Traore has also revived a dormant layer of national defense. The Office of Internal Counterintelligence, once focused only on external dangers, has been reactivated with a new mandate. Its attention is now turned inward. No one is off limits: police chiefs, regional commanders, even members of the cabinet. Their loyalties are being checked, their networks examined. And if anyone is found to have views that contradict Traore's vision, they are quietly reassigned, far from power, far from influence. To some, this may seem extreme or even paranoid. But in a region where betrayal often comes from within, paranoia is survival. History has already delivered a harsh lesson. Thomas Sankara was assassinated by his closest friend, Blaise Compaoré. Traore has learned from that tragedy, and he refuses to repeat it. Yet there is something even more important happening, something few outside Burkina Faso truly understand. Traore has a secret weapon. The moment he assumed leadership, he launched a civilian militia, the Volunteers for the Defense of the Homeland, VDP. Ordinary citizens, trained, equipped, and ready to defend their country. Their original purpose was to protect villages from terrorist attacks. But now they have become something far more significant. They are an extra layer of protection for the nation, a buffer between chaos and stability, a force untied to old colonial loyalties that still influence parts of the traditional military. Traore is now reshaping the VDP into the protective shield of the entire revolution, and potentially the last line of defense for the man who symbolizes it. The VDP has been reorganized and deployed strategically across Burkina Faso, stationed near key military and administrative zones. And their role has evolved. They aren't just guarding villages anymore. They have a new mission. They are the watchdogs. Like undercover operatives, the VDP now reports directly to the president whenever they detect suspicious activity or unusual behavior. These fiercely loyal civilian defenders have become Traore's eyes and ears across the entire country. Their presence ensures that any conspiracy, secret meeting, or attempt to destabilize the state is detected long before it becomes a threat. What began as a grassroots force against terrorists has transformed into a nationwide immune system, a rapid response network built to neutralize internal dangers. But Traore still wasn't satisfied. Under his orders, the Ministry of the Interior has quietly launched a new biometric monitoring program. On the surface, it looks like a simple national registration initiative. In reality, it serves a far more targeted purpose. According to intelligence sources inside Burkina Faso, this technology is now being used to track the movements of individuals flagged as potential threats, both civilians and members of the security forces. Those involved in the April 16 plot are now under full surveillance. Every call, every meeting, every location ping is monitored. The surveillance landscape has changed forever. And not everyone approves. Critics, especially foreign commentators online, accuse Traore of becoming an authoritarian ruler who uses fear and technology to tighten his grip on power. But his supporters see a very different picture. They've lived the attacks. They've seen the betrayals. They understand the stakes. Traoré himself has been clear. Burkina Faso is not operating like a Western-style democracy. It is in the midst of a revolution. Revolutions are not built on comfort. They survive through discipline, sacrifice, and vigilance. Traoré argues that no major power in history became strong simply through peaceful elections. The nations that dominate today's global economy, tech industry, and geopolitical landscape were shaped by revolutions, decisive leadership, and radical change. To him, Burkina Faso is no different. This is not a democracy. It is a transformation, and every revolution faces resistance. This is exactly what many fear, both inside and outside Burkina Faso. Because Traoré represents change, real change, and those who benefit from the current system fear losing control. These are the people who are perfectly comfortable with Burkina Faso remaining one of the world's poorest nations. Comfortable with instability. Comfortable with systemic corruption. Comfortable with a weak state they can easily manipulate. If they truly wanted progress, they wouldn't be trying to eliminate the one man pushing for it. For local elites, instability means easy money and effortless access to power. For foreign actors, it means unrestricted access to Burkina Faso's natural resources and the vast, untapped wealth of the Sahel. But Traoré's rise changed everything. He envisions a secure, sovereign, industrialized Burkina Faso, a nation capable of standing on its own. And that threatens those who have profited from the country's weakness for decades. That is why they have tried to remove him by any means necessary. From September 2022, when he first took power, to September 2023, Traoré survived 4 separate coup attempts. None succeeded. But instead of choosing revenge, he shocked everyone by choosing restraint. He didn't harm them, nor did he put anyone on trial or in prison. Instead, he issued a warning. Keep your distance, or face the consequences of what was coming. But that first coup attempt was only the beginning. Not long after, a second and third attempt followed in the same month. This time, Traoré changed his approach. No more warnings. No more leniency. Arrests were made, and investigations were launched. From October 2023 to September 2024, Burkina Faso found itself under constant internal and external pressure. Attempt after attempt, plot after plot. By the 9th coup attempt, the crisis had escalated far beyond politics. It had become a form of terror. Intelligence reports alleged that former junta leader Paul-Henri Damiba, now in exile in Togo, was linked to the conspiracy. According to these reports, Damiba allegedly maintained loyal sleeper cells within parts of the military, received quiet support from actors in Ivory Coast, and coordinated from afar with extremist groups. The result? A deadly attack that claimed the lives of both soldiers and civilians, a brutal reminder that Traoré's struggle wasn't just about holding power. It was about the survival of Burkina Faso itself. The alleged plot ran deeper than expected. Soldiers who once vowed to defend the nation were reportedly recruited into a network cooperating with armed groups. Using confidential military information, they planned an attack on Barcelogo, a strategically important town dangerously close to the capital, Ouagadougou. The assault was devastating. Many service members and civilians were killed, and the town fell. But this wasn't only a military strike. It was a psychological operation meant to divide the armed forces, undermine Traoré's security reforms, and weaken his leadership. The end goal? Mutiny, chaos, collapse. But the plan ultimately failed. Some conspirators were arrested, others scattered. More attempts followed, and every one of them has been thwarted. Yet they all seem to share a common thread: indications of outside involvement. Foreign actors repeatedly appear in the background, fueling instability, financing opposition elements, and exploiting internal divisions. That is why Traoré's latest security measures, he argues, are not optional. Because the situation is no longer about politics. It's not personal, it's a battle. A battle against hidden enemies, against traitors, against a system that has long profited from Burkina Faso's suffering. For Traore, self-defense isn't only about personal protection. It's about defending a vision, a future in which Burkina Faso stands independently. It is frustrating to see someone trying to bring meaningful change, forced to take extreme precautions just to stay alive. Why can't he simply be allowed to do his work? His task is already enormous, confronting both internal unrest and terrorism. How can the fight against terrorism succeed under such constant pressure? And the threats aren't only physical. The media has also launched intense criticism toward Traore, and in some ways, that may be even more dangerous. The influence of the media is immense. The media has enormous influence over how people think. A single remark from a prominent outlet can spark doubt, anger, or fear in millions, sometimes even billions. Unfortunately, those who want Traore out understand this very well and are using it to their advantage. Lately, Traore seems to be targeted more than almost any other leader. Not just criticized, systematically attacked with misleading narratives. His portrayal in many Western media platforms is almost always negative. It's as if some journalists remember only what fits their preferred narrative. Then again, maybe that shouldn't be surprising. At the end of the day, they'd often amplify whatever aligns with Western interests. Take the bold claim made recently by the US AFRICOM commander, accusing Traore of using Burkina Faso's gold for personal protection. Really? Most people know this accusation doesn't hold up. Traore has repeatedly stated that the country's resources should benefit the population, not enrich him. And honestly, even if some of that gold were used for national security, wouldn't that be within his responsibilities? He is constantly dealing with threats. Why does it seem like whenever an African leader strengthens their country's defenses, the US feels the need to comment? And the criticism keeps piling on. Another article even accused Traore of enriching himself with national wealth. That claim simply doesn't add up. Africa has seen real corruption before. Leaders living extravagantly while their citizens struggle, flying private jets and shopping in European capitals. But Traore? He doesn't fit that image. If he were exploiting state funds, we would see the signs: flashy clothing, luxurious cars, massive residences. None of that is true. He still dresses simply. His transportation is practical, not for spectacle. He stays grounded in every sense. And unlike many leaders who constantly travel abroad, he remains in Burkina Faso, facing problems head-on, meeting the people and doing the work. That's rare, and that's exactly why some fear him. The latest allegations are just another attempt to turn public opinion against him. There was even a period when global headlines accused Traore of targeting members of the Fulani ethnic community. Reports claimed he became so angry that he redirected military operations specifically toward them. That claim triggered outrage, especially among Burkinabe communities in France. Some even demanded his resignation. Yet, like the corruption accusations, the story was unfounded. The Fulani were never singled out by Traore's government. If such a campaign existed, local journalists, those who live and report within Burkina Faso, would have covered it. They did not. Instead, the narrative came from outside, foreign outlets, commentators, and so-called analysts who have never set foot in Burkina Faso. Still, their voices dominate the conversation. And this is the real issue. As Africans, we can't afford to ignore misinformation of this kind. We have a responsibility to ensure the truth is heard. We cannot allow narratives crafted from thousands of kilometers away to shape the views of our diaspora, like the Burkinabe community in France. Traore isn't perfect, but he is one of the few leaders genuinely pushing for change, not just for Burkina Faso, but for Africa as a whole. This entire revolution could collapse if Traore is forced out of power, or worse, if anything happens to him. And let's be honest, leaders like him don't appear often. If he falls, it could take years, even decades, before Africa sees another figure with his courage. Think back to what happened after Thomas Sankara. He was killed, and the continent waited a generation for another leader willing to stand up to entrenched systems and speak truth to power. Today, Traore is that figure. He isn't just the hope of Burkina Faso. He symbolizes hope for Africa as a whole. He's proof that the continent can produce leaders who are principled, patriotic, and committed to real transformation. Yet, instead of rallying behind him, some individuals are working against him. They've chosen to align themselves with outside interests rather than their own country. They are undermining the very future they claim to defend. And perhaps the most troubling part, many believe that destabilization efforts may even involve neighboring countries like Ivory Coast. Still, there is a chance, if the new security measures hold. Maybe, just maybe, they will be enough to protect him. Enough to protect the movement. Enough to keep the revolution alive. Tell us what you think in the comments section below. We explore the rich history, culture, and the ongoing struggle for sovereignty in Africa. Join us in this important conversation by subscribing to our channel. By subscribing, you're not just staying informed, you're becoming part of a movement dedicated to reclaiming Africa's rightful place on the global stage. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Let's work together to spread knowledge and inspire change. Thanks for watching.